Welcome to season 2, episode 1 of Black Girl Blueprint to Maternal Health, a series brought to you by Revive Community Health Center and our amazing partners, Black Millennials for Flint. I am your host, Catrina Tillman, the Executive Director at Revive Community Health Center located in Flint, Michigan. We are excited about tonight's episode. I'm so glad that you guys have joined us. We are going to have a great dialogue. Tonight's episode is called Liquid Gold. Yes, the power of the boobies. Okay, get into it. Okay, it's not just for pleasure, it's for feeding as well. I have some experts, some amazing women that I've been able to connect with who are in this space, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with them. We're going to go ahead and move forward with introductions. We will start with you, Esther. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know your name, the name of your business, and where you are from.
Hello, everyone. My name is Esther McCant. I am the CEO of Metro Mommy Agency, and I am joining you live in full effect in Miami, Florida, where we are anticipating a storm. So I hope I'm able to hang on for the call. I've been a doula for about 7 years. I'm a mom of 4 boys, all naturally birthed with wonderful midwives. I am also a certified lactation counselor and a hypnobirthing childbirth educator, and currently running a program right now to increase access of our doulas in our federally qualified healthcare centers. I have the opportunity to play the role of connector, people connector. I call it community activating on different committees that I facilitate that are addressing maternal child health issues. And I am so excited to be here, so happy to have met you. And I can't wait for our discussion today.
Yes, thank you so much, Esther. We're going to move over to Meredith. Welcome to Black Girls Blueprint, Season 2, Episode 1. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. My name is Meredith Strayhorn. I am a student midwife. I am finished with clinicals. I'm in my last year of school, so just kind of trying to wrap that up. I'll finish in May, so that's really exciting. Prior to school, I was a doula. I also am the operations and financial director of Black Birth Circle. I am the founder and CEO of the Walking Stick Midwifery Services. And I also work for our local community action agency in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm from Northern Kentucky, but I do work in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I work in education as well.
Awesome. So glad to have you. And last but not least, we're going to turn it over to Miss Jamaica with her beautiful smile. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from.
Thank you so much. I am Jamaica, like the country, but that's not on my IDs. It's Jamaica Gilliam. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, born and bred and raised. I wear a slew of hats. I am the founder and executive director of Black Birth Circle, which is a Black birth worker collective here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I also am a CLC, so lactation counselor, but I am in the hunt and will be sitting for my IBCLC, so be a lactation consultant finally very soon. I do my lactation work through my business called Latch Life. I work at our county public health office with a maternal and infant vitality grant. So basically, I just get to talk to pregnant mamas and postpartum mamas all day and try to de-stress their lives while capturing their narratives and really like uplifting their voices and their sounds. So hopefully I get to do that, a little bit of that here today.
Awesome. I'm so glad to have the three of you all. I met these amazing women about a month and a half ago where we went to a conference, a Black Mama Maternal Conference. I think I got that right. But yeah, it was such an amazing conference, and just to connect with each of you has just been a true treasure. But let's go ahead and get into this conversation because I'm really excited to talk about the liquid gold, the boobies. Okay, so let's get into it. This is completely popcorn style. So whenever you feel the need to jump in and answer the question, just please go ahead and do so. So we all know Black women have a difficult history with breastfeeding, grounded in trauma stemming from the transatlantic slave trade. I mean, we could take this all the way back, where we were denied the human right to prioritize naturally nurturing our own children and prioritizing white women and their children. During the brutal days of slavery, some Black women's sole purpose was to forcibly just be served as a wet nurse. Leaders in the Black breastfeeding movement, like our experts that are here tonight, are working to properly address and create healing spaces from trauma of white supremacy stemming back from slavery, and encouraging Black mothers to reclaim their power to breastfeed. I want you all to kind of just open this conversation up and just discuss some of the challenges and victories you have experienced in your work to foster a tribe and a community for Black breastfeeding. And anybody can go ahead and jump in.
I'll start. So one thing, a challenge in our area is that we do not have a lot of Black CLCs or IBCLCs. So for me personally, I literally, like, Jamaica is the person I refer to, which she's fantastic. I love her and it's amazing. And I love working with her. But once her schedule is full, then what do my clients do? You know? And so that gets a little tricky. That it's a challenge when there aren't many people out here that are championing Black breastfeeding. So, you know, we do have things in our community like the breast friend training. So trying to help people in the community that are really passionate about breastfeeding, getting that training to be able to be these peer counselors for those in the community that want to breastfeed, you know? And so just for me, it's education, like trying to educate. I'm educating myself as much as possible and then advocating for others to then also get educated so that we can support our Black mamas out here who are trying to breastfeed.
Everything that she just said. So, I mean, breastfeeding is how I got into this work. I have 8-year-old twins that nursed until they were 4.5. And my daughter literally said, I'm going to nurse forever. And I'm like, okay, no, but okay. But I just remember that not seeing Black breastfeeding at all. And I remember really charging myself with being really intentional about my own breastfeeding journey and being sure that I displayed it as much as possible. That made some people uncomfortable, but I told them to lean into it. It was fine. So I know, like, just personally, my own breastfeeding journey is kind of something that I have done also for the public. I am one of the only Black lactation professionals. We've had another sprinkling of Black CLCs. But when it comes to Black IBCLCs or having just the knowledge base of a Black IBCLC, there's about 3 of us. So like Meredith was saying, we get pretty booked pretty quickly, especially when we are predominantly the ones that are serving our locality, our county. So I have also tried to be really intentional about training other folks, like really getting the love that I have for Black lactation into the community. So the breast friend training from Rose, which is a really great organization reaching our sisters everywhere. I am a breast friend trainer, so I have trained about 20 folks, from birth workers, community health workers, to just moms, to be peer counselors and to really have those tools and those resources. So that's definitely been a huge win, at least for me in our district.
I love that. Esther, were you going to say something? I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Sure, definitely. I noticed some of the challenges is that when I am in spaces and tables where these topics are being discussed, as it pertains to like breastfeeding in the Black community, that I was usually the only person there to discuss it, oftentimes baby wearing and breastfeeding my own child while I'm there in these meetings. So I feel the same way as Jamaica and Meredith might be feeling, where we're wearing so many hats. And the challenge is having the capacity to meet all the needs, but also not skipping out on any of the discussions that are happening or the decision making that's happening, or even the policy changes that are being proposed. And so there is a huge need for the workforce to be increased in our area. Even though we're very diverse, you would expect it to be very diverse in terms of our representation at these meetings. But that's something I'm personally taking on as my own challenge to help increase our workforce down here. And then also, of course, conditioning those who are at the table who are used to the data in terms of whether Black women really breastfeed or not, like who are probably discouraged by the numbers still, to really recognize that when we are able to do it successfully, we can advocate for ourselves, we can come up with our own solutions, and we can be there for each other as well.
I absolutely love it all. So I want to piggyback a little bit. So our viewers, not all of our viewers are familiar with this space. And one of the things that we like to do, and we are focused on with Black Girls Blueprint to Maternal Health, is education, right? So I know for us, we throw out a lot of acronyms, but for our audience, they might not know what the ABCDEFGs are, right? So just clarify what the CLCs are and the IBCLC is.
I literally said that in my head as I was saying it. I said, Jamaica, do better. Like, not everyone is roaming through your brain. So CLC, when it comes to which there is no like hierarchy of lactation professionals, we are all one band, one sound. We all very much need each other to make this whole thing work. I always say about 70% of my job is cheerleading moms, right? And really, we would love our peers to be able to do that. So you have your breast friends, which is your peer-to-peers. So it's usually moms or breastfeeding folks that are either have done it recently, have nursed their babies recently, or really just have like a lot of knowledge through their own experiences. So that's your breastfeeding peers. We like to call them our breast friends, but peer-to-peer support. And then we have our CLCs, CLEs, so your certified lactation counselors, which is kind of like that next rung of when it comes to like knowledge base, that can do a lot of things when it comes to latching, positioning, things of that nature. Which is what myself is at this moment. And then you have your IBCLC, so your International Board Certified Lactation Consultants, which is a clinical based lactation professional. So they're the ones that do the like everything from the tongue ties to weight gain and things like that. So I think that's all the alphabet soup that we put out there.
No, thank you for clarifying. I just want to make sure our audience can keep up with our conversation. So that was very good. Thanks for breaking it down for us. So we all know in 2014, back in April, Flint experienced one of the most triggering, traumatizing, horrific acts of environmental racism in our lifetime, which is obviously known as the Flint water crisis. Women and babies were and are still the most vulnerable with the water crisis and the results thereof, and other ways in which pregnant women and nursing mothers are exposed to lead within the water crisis and other environmental toxins. Lead exposure in pregnant and nursing mothers can transfer to babies from breastfeeding and while in the womb. What part does nutrition and environmental health play in the breastfeeding experience? And even more so, what advice do you have for breastfeeding mothers and those that are interested in breastfeeding? I remember when I breastfed, we have 4 boys. I breastfed all of them. I wasn't as brave as you. I wasn't as brave as you, Jamaica, to 4. That first bite, I was like, you know what? We have come to an end. This relationship has come to an end. So I commend you. For going that long. But I just remember, certain foods that I would eat that maybe had me, my stomach upset, obviously that would transfer to the baby. So let's just talk about nutrition and how that plays a role in the whole liquid gold or breastfeeding conversation. Anybody can jump in.
Okay, I always like to give myself a little count because I want to be sure that I'm not taking up all the space. But real quick, when it comes to things that you eat, of course, like tastes of things are going to go into your milk, right? But I don't know if this is good or a bad thing, but and maybe this is some of my doula background, that I am not one of those sticklers about nutrition. And I don't know, maybe I should just shut my mouth. But I have had plenty of clients that can't eat like anything. So if they are able to eat like a half of a McDonald's burger and some Swedish fish, I'm like, yay. If we were able to keep that down, let's do that. I was told by my OB that babies are the best sort of parasites on the outside, on the inside, and on the outside. So your milk is a pretty good filtration system in the first place. And your body is going to want to keep your young alive. So just because you yourself don't consume what we call like a well-rounded diet, doesn't mean that your milk is going to be any like really less than. We always want to protect the milk supply. We always would rather you breastfeed, even if you're only eating McDonald's chicken nuggets, or if you're eating Swedish fish. Like the breast milk is always going to be the liquid gold, no matter what you feel like you're consuming is going into your milk. So I mean, of course, I'm not saying do a line of cocaine and thinking that everything's going to be like completely fine. Even though, let's talk about that, like, I mean, not right now, but we can like call me, we can talk about it. But usually breast milk, like we are always going to want breastfeeding to happen. So I am not the person that's the most stickler about getting your vitamins and eating all your greens. And like, I would love for you to do those things. I would love for you to stay hydrated, but I don't want you to think if you drink more water, you're going to make more milk. You are going to make just as much milk as your baby needs, but your baby, just like when they were in the womb, they're going to take everything from you and leave you with what's left. And the same thing happens with your breast milk. It's going to take everything that this baby needs, and it's going to leave you with what's left. And sometimes that's nothing. And so I very much want you to eat more than a chicken nugget and drink more than a tiny little paper cup of water, because I want you to feel good. But I am not concerned that your milk is going to not have what it needs to sustain your baby, if that makes sense.
I'm along those same lines. Looking at it kind of, I guess, from the midwifery perspective, we are always advocating for a healthy diet during pregnancy, but sometimes we get in survival mode, right? And if you can eat a chicken nugget and some Swedish fish and that's all or a cheeseburger, whatever it is, and that's what you can keep down, sure. I think my biggest thing is trying to get in enough that you are, able to grow a healthy placenta that's going to get all the things that your baby needs, so that they can grow and like be a healthy-ish baby when they are on the outside. Because when we have our lower birth weight babies, those are the ones that struggle, that, either you're really little babies or you're really big babies, or the babies that struggle to be able to kind of get everything settled and regulate everything. And so it's more so just like to make things easier, I guess, if you will, and to make sure that you have something going in, right? And we don't want to be dehydrated. So yeah, we're not getting like little paper cups of water, but like getting something in. And maybe it's not water, maybe it is I don't know. For me, I have a thing with Mountain Dew. Not that it's healthy, but just gonna say, I'm putting it out there. We all have our vices, right? But again, just like trying to make sure that we sort of have something going in so that we can supply our baby with something, right? And that so that you feel good. So like Jamaica said, like that's if you don't feel well, you're not going to feel like doing the things that you need to do. It's going to be harder for you to be motivated to continue to nurse a baby because you don't feel good. I'm so tired because I don't have the right things in my body, right? So like finding that balance, getting enough in that you're like, okay, I can do this. I can maintain my own health so that I can take care of my baby and I can continue nursing my baby. And keep all the things moving and all the things going.
Awesome. I would love to just add that I feel like we've had enough babies to kind of trial and error this out with nutrition. Each of them were able to breastfeed, 13 months or longer, thankfully. And I do believe as I got a little bit more conservative in terms of how I was eating, I benefited greatly in the sense that the energy, like you all were saying, was heightened. People were like confused, like, how are you doing all of this? And it was because I really did move into clean eating. There are days when I try to be almost vegan or almost vegetarian. And I benefited from those things tremendously. And literally before this conversation, someone asked me, who's my picky eater? And I really don't have one. Doesn't mean that it foolproofs it that you're never going to have a picky eater. But because I introduced certain foods into my diet, I know my children had some kind of exposure to the types of foods that are healthy to be able to withstand it when they were out of the womb, So I do owe, I think, that to it as well. But also I'm one of those very like, hey, you're going to eat this. Like, I really want you to at least try it. Don't knock it until you try it, kind of a thing. And it was a lot easier to do that because there was not much of a fight, from the start, So the other thing too, especially when we think about the community we serve, we already have so many families dealing with, family histories of diabetes and hypertension. And so I always approach pregnancy as a way to kind of, safeguard a little bit against that. There are some things that we can control, and what we eat is one of those things. Certainly, we can't always control what our genes are doing, but I do believe that we can support ourselves to avoid unnecessary hospitalizations or unnecessary dehydration after a birth and things like that. So, you want to nurture and take care of yourself as best as you can, and, continue to do the same for your baby once the baby's born.
I love that. I remember, y'all, the girl had gestational diabetes and they put me on that raggedy diet. Y'all know the diet they put you on when you have gestational diabetes. It's basically like, I want you to eat air and drink water, basically is the diet. And for a pregnant woman, it's painful. It's painful to abide by. I did as good as I could. But I did. I had the Mountain Dew splurge. I'll never forget when we were pregnant with our first son. Girl, baby boy woke me up at like 3 a.m. and I had to have a McDonald's McGriddle. Like, it was like, if I don't get this McGriddle, my husband was gonna catch hell. And I remember it, thankfully, we lived by 24-hour McDonald's. So I was like nudging him, and we're here in Michigan, and it was Michigan snow, Michigan winter. And I'm nudging him like, babe, you got to get up. And he's like, what, is the baby on the way? I'm like, no, I need the McGriddle. Like, he's like,
why did the same thing happen to me?
Listen, he's like,
same thing.
You supposed to be on this diet. And I'm like, you know what? Right now, don't say nothing to me about this diet, because the way this craving is taking over my mind, body, and soul. If you don't get the McGriddle, it's going to be a problem for you. Needless to say, he went and got the McGriddle. Thank you, God, for a good husband.
And it must be something about McDonald's, because for me it wasn't the McGriddle, but it was the cheeseburger. I wanted like the taste of the onions on a McDonald's cheeseburger.
Oh yeah.
Only for McDonald's. That's it. It didn't matter. It was only McDonald's. And prior to pregnancy, it used to give me indigestion. I couldn't eat it. And then I got pregnant, and all of a sudden my body was like, yes, this all the time.
Chicken nuggets.
But also I do
McDonald's chicken nuggets.
It was chicken nuggets.
It was chicken nuggets.
And I do wonder though, did they talk all about sleep? Sleep in regulating blood sugar?
Wait, say that again. You were kind of going in and out. You said, did they talk about
sleep? Did they talk about sleep at all in managing your blood sugar levels? It's vital. We've had a client where that made the difference. Being able to sleep at night it drastically changed her fasting levels when she woke in the morning. And that was how we were able to help her through diet and sleep manage her gestational diabetes and still be able to have a home birth.
Oh, wow. See, no, they never mentioned anything to me about sleep. It was more so like the diet, prick your finger in the morning, the diet. And so, obviously, and of course, we're not recommending anybody to just have a Mountain Dew chicken nugget, McDonald's cheeseburger, McGriddle diet. We are saying that in pregnancy, you're going to have those moments where the nutrition is not, obviously the healthiest, but going back to Esther's point, I think we all are saying that obviously you want to choose a overall healthy diet when you are pregnant, because what you put in your body, that baby is going to get, and you're going to get, like she said, you're going to get the leftovers. And so if you eating and drinking McDonald's and Mountain Dew all day, you ain't going to get left with too much. So it's really important to make sure that, we do eat our grains and fruits and vegetables, of course, but, put a little bit of Lawry's, a little bit of Miss Dash or something on it, season it up, a little garlic, salt, a little garlic pepper.
Salt is not a bad thing. Salt is what's going to keep us from swelling, because it's going to draw that water out of our tissues. I'm just saying, it's this misnomer that we shouldn't ever have salt. That's okay. If you have high cholesterol, whatever, sure, that's one thing. But for pregnant people that need to absorb all the things, salt is important in your diet.
Love it. So 2020, a year that we shall never forget, right? It marks one of the most life-altering years for all of us. All of us who have experienced, we all experienced COVID in some way, form, or fashion, COVID-19. And while we are 2 years into this pandemic, I know the president said the pandemic is over, but COVID is still alive and well. So while we are 2 years into this, Black women and babies are definitely very vulnerable. So what should breastfeeding mamas know in terms of to protect themselves and their babies from COVID-19 long term?
I can take it away. So I have had COVID 3 times since 2020. And I have my little boy Biggie. He is almost 3, and he was born in December of 19. So he's like one of the last of the pre-COVID kids. But he was exclusively breastfed. I got COVID in April of 2020. And thought a girl was gonna die. Like it was bad. It probably wouldn't have been as bad if I didn't get pneumonia also. But my pediatrician, I have a family doctor, my PCP, when I was asking, like, should I keep him away? Should I keep him like what should I do? And this is very early on, like the shutdown happened in March and I got it in April. And she told me, and I will always quote her, she said, you need to keep him in the eye of the storm. So he stayed skin to skin with me as much as I possibly could. Other than the times that I had to go to the ED or something like that, but when I came home, He was right there with me, skin to skin. He nursed through the entire time. We happened to be a part of a flu study, so we were sending in nasal swabs every week since birth. So they started testing for not only influenza, but they started testing for COVID through these weekly nasal swabs. So every time mine is coming back positive and he is staying negative, which I just think is profound. I've had it 2 other times since 2020, and he has nursed through all 3 times, and he has been one of the only ones in my household to not ever test positive. So I truly think that the milk is the answer. You should see my car. I have a bumper sticker that says breast milk is the answer to the zombie apocalypse. It is. I know that it's what kept him from ever getting sick. He has barely had a sniffle or a sneeze. And he has had COVID milk multiple times. So we are actually in another study. Cincinnati loves their research about basically the protections. So if he's having any antibodies, even though he's never tested positive for COVID, but he has had plenty of exposure to COVID through environmental in his milk. So I say all of that to say, I'm just going to tell folks the same thing. If you all keep breastfeeding, even if you test positive, keep breastfeeding, keep that baby skin to skin, keep that baby in the eye of the storm. That's really what's going to protect baby. And I really think that even for myself, that even though that first time I did get pretty sick, I have never felt like I was absolutely going to die. And I can only imagine how it would be if I was not nursing. So I think that there was definitely protections for myself also. So that is it's not out of my brain. My PCP definitely told me that. But keep that baby in the eye of the storm. That's what I needed to say.
That is so unique and interesting. I mean, again, we're talking about liquid gold, right? So you all just heard her story about having COVID and still being able to nurse, and the baby not having not one symptom of COVID, not a sniffle or fever or anything. And I think that really speaks to the testament of the power of the boobies. But really quick, just if you don't mind sharing, were you vaccinated? Did you have the vaccination?
So in April of 2020, there was no vaccination, so I was not vaccinated. But I had it also in January of 22, and then I got it again in July of 22, and I was vaxxed and boosted at that time. So both my second and third time, I was. And he's never, like I said, he never even got a cough. He could never, nothing ever happened to that kid. So he's totally good, but my pediatrician was very adamant that to not stop. Even as a lactation consultant, there's definitely times that I'm just like, he's 2.5, he's about to be 3, that I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I kind of want this to look different. But really, with COVID still very much, no matter what the president said, being a factor, that's one of the biggest drivers that I am not quitting as of now. So he will still get milk, but at least he asked for it, and we do not nurse on the toilet. I have boundaries.
Listen, the stories we could tell about your baby just pulling your boob out. I'm like, listen, sir, the moment that you can come and tap and just pull the shirt down, it's time to, I got you. Yeah, we didn't nurse on the toilet either, but trust me, they tried. And I'm like, now I have to put a lock on the bathroom door because I can't even have my privacy. Okay.
No, the bathroom is my space. And literally they'll come in, even when my older ones were little, be like, so the rule was you couldn't nurse if I was pooping. And they would always come in and ask me, are you pooping? If you're not pooping, I nurse. And I'm like, nope. When I am sitting on the toilet, I don't even care if my pants are down. If I'm sitting on the toilet, this is my time. Like, it does not matter. doesn't matter if I'm pooping, you cannot be here and you cannot nurse.
These are the real stories of motherhood. Y'all better get into it, viewers. Meredith or Esther, did you all wanted to add anything to that question regarding COVID?
Yes, I did. So I am post breastfeeding experience about 6 years when COVID showed up on the scene. Well, actually, no, 4 years, I would say. And our turnaround in our family when it came to being exposed to it was like a 2-day turnaround. And a lot of that I do think was owed to how we've been dealing with reducing inflammation in our bodies, trying to make sure our immune systems are really strong. I'm Haitian, so, we just broke out some tea, some herbs, and just tried to battle that way. But, I believe in good bacteria and good germs, right, to help us out. And I think also when it comes to those breastfeeding mamas, what they need to know is the stress response cycle, right? We kind of are in this waiting period to see what's going to happen next still, even though quarantine is over per se, and people are, masked off and vaccinated and things like that. We're still kind of waiting to see what our systems are going to do as it relates to food and supply chain and different things like that. So I think just as we have long haul COVID folks who are dealing and battling, unfortunately, we need to be ready for this long haul mental health battle that we'll pursue and really have some helps and supports in place because we just don't know what the new normal is going to be in 2 years from now or 3 years from now or 4 years from now. So the best thing that I personally would do if I were a breastfeeding mama is to have a plan, to know that there may not be a plan, for there to be another option when it comes to supplementation. I'm going into the grocery store every week, several times a week, and I'm purposely walking down to see what's going on with the formula, what's going on with these shortages. And I just would say, really, if you're pregnant right now, give it a really good go, a good start. Seek out lactation support immediately, like as soon as you even think you have a problem or think you have an issue, because you can build up a supply in spite of all of this going on. It is possible. And I think if you have the mental health supports, meaning if you're already dealing with anxiety, depression during your pregnancy, don't shrink back from getting the support you need, whether it's through counseling, reaching out to postpartum doulas who can come in and help you do the things that are overwhelming to you in your home, and to seek out, Medicaid. If you have Medicaid sponsoring or paying for your coverage for doula support, do not hesitate to access that and to utilize that to your advantage, because we have to be ready for the long haul for whatever this might look like.
That is so true. Go ahead, Meredith.
I just wanted to add, so kind of piggybacking off of, what both of y'all just said, the other thing to consider too is that how breast milk lines the gut of our babies, and how it protects them. Because once you introduce formula actually causes fissures in the stomach and in the bowels. And then so if a baby has had formula and then they're exposed to, this is really significant, especially if you have like an HIV positive mama or something like that. Like once they've been exposed to formula, they're not supposed to go back to breast milk, because now your system is open. The baby system is open. And so if we're starting with breastfeeding, trying to maintain breastfeeding because it is protective. And so it does line everything, right? But then if we introduce formula and then we cause these fissures, then now we're allowing things to get inside baby. So it's really important to try to continue breastfeeding if at all possible. And I know this is not possible for everyone, and there's no shame, no guilt. I'm not like saying that about anybody who isn't choosing breastfeeding, but in supporting breastfeeding efforts, this is another one of those things. That's why it's really, really, really important to continue just breastfeeding, because you're giving your baby those antibodies and building up their immune system and and coating their gut and creating the good bacteria in their microbiome, right? And we want to continue to promote that for as long as possible. So if you can, again, like Esther said, if you can build up that supply, get your supports together, like get everything in place so that you can be successful. So knowing, like, trying to make a plan going into it, but also knowing that, like, our plans don't always go the way we see them going. So then, okay, what's plan B? What's plan C? How can we still get these supports, and how can we still continue to get human milk into our babies?
Thank you so much for talking about the benefits of it too, because I was going to ask that. So you already covered that. But what about, what is some advice that you can give for our moms? Because there still is a baby formula shortage. And even for our moms that are, that recently maybe had their baby and not producing milk, we know that you can, buy milk, breast milk, from other women. So if any of you all have any experience with your clients with that, what are some nuggets that we can give our audience in terms of how to even go about researching that? And then, how do I know that this person didn't just do a line of cocaine or a fifth of Hennessy, and now they're selling me their breast milk, and now I'm about to get that to my baby? I'm just saying it happens. I'm just saying. So just give a couple of tips of how moms can go about doing that, because if they are against the actual baby formula, but maybe they can't produce the milk themselves.
I call Jamaica, so I'm just going to pass it off to her.
Okay. So many things to say. For one, I mean, the line of Coke, yeah, we're going to have to talk about that. The fifth of Hennessy, you can still feed that baby. Like, you'll be all right. So when it comes to mamas that are wanting to provide like human milk for their babies, for one, like, already just that desire is such a step, right? And so I always want bio parents milk for that baby, right? That's always going to be our top tier of the hierarchy of human milk, is the one that belongs and is made for that baby. So relactation, if the lactation was established at one point and then we dropped off, things happened, and we want to relactate, that is definitely an option. And I would say that can easily be the first option. Bringing baby to the breast if baby still latches, that's perfect. If baby can relatch, that is perfect. That's what I would love to see. Of course, introducing the pump or any sort of hand expression. I would rather any sort of expression of the milk. I would rather a hand express or even a manual pump versus a electric pump, because we really want to mimic that nipple stretching. We want to mimic the baby as much as we possibly can to get that milk supply back. And it takes about 14 days to establish that milk supply. So if you latched and nursed for that first 14 days and say it's 4 months down the line and you're not producing anything, you're not breastfeeding anymore, you want to do it again, it's going to be much easier for someone who did nurse for those first 14 days to relactate versus someone who quit before that first 14 days. So I always kind of tell moms, like, even if you don't know if you want to breastfeed, if we can get through this first 14 days of life breastfeeding, bringing baby to the breast, and then if you want to quit after that, cool. Like, we can wean. We can talk about that. But because if you want to do this later down the line, it's going to be so much easier for you to actually do this. So relactation, of course. So when it comes to human milk sharing, you have your formal and your informal ways of milk sharing. Of course, we would love to go to pasteurized human milk banks, that when it comes to like safety, and that like just being able to put your mind at ease that you're not going to have any of the H's that you can't get rid of, nothing that's going to go away with antibiotic, things of that nature. But sometimes that's not an option, especially that stuff is expensive. It's like, it can be like $50 an ounce. And I don't know if y'all had kids, but what baby is just eating an ounce at 4 months old, right? So there are informal ways of sharing. Usually there is Facebook groups, if you are on the interwebs. And I know some La Leche League folks, which is a breastfeeding peer-to-peer organization that's pretty known. And they do have, they monitor the sorts of moms and breast milk folks that are in these groups, and they are very adamant. They have rules that you are not allowed to sell or trade or buy any milk. It's all about donation based. The most that you can do is probably give milk bags back or something like that. So I would say if you are looking for informal sharing, going to a group that have those rules in place, and then you'll meet that person who did the milk, did the pumping, and so having those conversations. And I know here there's some talks about starting a wet nursing circle. So just folks getting together that are still nursing their babies and being able to meet and basically a little postpartum group, but we can swap babies, or we can have an older baby try to just come back to the breast to latch. So there's so many things that are happening, especially due to this formula shortage. And I actually love to see it. I love to see the togetherness and the community, and us looking out for each other again.
I definitely appreciate you sharing just those tips that our moms and our audience can take away. So as we wrap, I know we coming back. This is season 2, episode 1. So we got some more for y'all. But as we wrap, I would like to thank our panelists for sharing their wisdom tonight, their insight, for sure. We know that August is Black Breastfeeding Month. So just really quickly, as a last word for tonight, how can we amplify celebrating Black breastfeeding 7 days a week, 365 days a year? If each of you all could just give a quick tidbit on how we can amplify celebrating Black breastfeeding.
I'll go first. For me, it's just education. Just getting out here, talking about it, being that example, and supporting being a support in and of ourselves. So if I have anybody that's got questions, okay, here's a resource. Here's the information that I have. Here's where you can get more education. Tell all of your friends. And just, that we're out here doing it. We're normalizing breastfeeding. That's the goal. We're just out here doing it.
I love it. I love that. Esther, Jamaica, really quick, did you guys want to give a quick snippet on what we can do to amplify Black breastfeeding?
Sure thing. I would say definitely donate to organizations that do the work. It costs to spend time trying to wait on a baby to wake up so you could take a look at this latch before you head on home. It takes time to invest in staff and folks to do the work in the field, to get on a Zoom call at all hours of the day and night. I think if folks are really interested in pushing the work forward, donate to orgs that are doing the work. Also, if financially it's not possible, volunteer at an organization. You never know, there could be tabling events and things like that would benefit not only the organization but yourself, in terms of interacting, in terms of sharing your passion, your enthusiasm about breastfeeding. I often feel like it's the actual folks who are doing it that become people who work in the field, right? Or people who are passionate about it, or who got support from another lactation person. And then lastly, speak up and advocate. There's different policies that can be in place to support those working families that are, trying to breastfeed successfully, but they can't because the policies are in place to deter them. Or to limit their ability to do so. So if you have a voice and you can communicate and persuade people, use that for good. And let's support and advocate for breastfeeding any way that we can.
You got about 3 seconds, Jamaica.
3 seconds. I would say show patronage to breastfeeding friendly spaces. Ask those, even if you're not a breastfeeding person, ask places that you work. I would say that would be a great interview question. Like, what are you doing? What is your maternity leave, your paternity leave? What is your breastfeeding attitude here in this space? So your businesses, your workplaces, childcares, being sure that you are showing the love and support for places that are intentionally breastfeeding friendly.
I love that. Advocate. And you all know at Revive Community Health Center, we educate moms on breastfeeding. We have a doula on staff. Breastfeeding is something that we promote, that we're serious about. We even give away for free. Just by joining our program and being a part and being active in our program, you receive the Medela Double Breast Pump, which is like a $200 breast pump. So moms are able to get that. We are very strategic about advocating for breastfeeding. So again, thank you to my panelists for joining again tonight for our season 2 opener of Black Girls Blueprint to Maternal Health. Be sure to check out us on Facebook at Revive Community Health Center and at our website, revivechc.org. Make sure y'all check out next month's episode of Black Girls Blueprint, where we will discuss the thickness and in health. BBWs and birthing. Y'all better get into these topics, okay? And as we also, please make sure that you share this episode. We want to make sure that this information gets out. Share with a friend. And continue to engage with our core key partners, Black Millennials for Flint. Again, and as always, thank you to our guests. Thank you for your time. And we will see you next month for another episode of Black Girls Blueprint to Maternal Health. I'm Catrina Tillman. See you all next month.